Welcome to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center, being recorded here at WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative radio station here at Buffalo State University. We're very grateful to everyone here at Buff State, and especially our producer, engineer, Greg Harvey. Thank you so much, Greg.
You're very welcome. Glad to be here as usual.
Oh, we're grateful. And we're also grateful to our alternate, we have our two ways of taping this show, one of them here at Buff State and the other, which gets played here at Buff State, just did get played here. That previous show was taped at Think Twice Radio. So shout out to Richard Wicca in the home of the future at Think Twice Radio. And when I think about thankfulness, I think about our Indigenous friends, our Indigenous family, really, brothers and sisters, and the way, first of all, that in spite of the fact that we are here on stolen Haudenosaunee land, stolen Onondaga or Seneca land that was taken through trickery and violence, they and other people who've been enslaved or ancestors have been enslaved, people who've been oppressed, still they know that gratitude is the attitude. Gratitude is the thing that helps us to fight the struggles we have to struggle with, to care for each other and everything. So they start every gathering with a Ganonyo, which basically thanks the people who made it happen, just like we were doing. And thanks Mother Earth for giving us all the things we need for a good life here. Is thankful for the living water, Mini-Wachoni, water is life, for all the wonderful plants, medicinal and nutritional, for the trees that give us so much in so many ways, just vital to our existence, and the wonderful animals that we can enjoy and love so much, whether they're swimming, crawling, four-leggeds, or flying creatures. And then so much beauty around us in this world, and then in the sky world, the brother, sun, grandmother, moon, and the whole sky world, and of course the Creator, and the love that animates it all. So then they say Nyahweh, and the people say Nyo. So Nyahweh.
Yo.
Thank you. So we have a very special show here today. All about Peace Action of New York State, Peace Action Fund of New York State, and all the wonderful student organizing that goes on. So I'm just going to go around the circle in respect to the traditional Haudenosaunee way. But we're very thrilled to have, not in station, but with our new technology, we're able to bring people in from all over in so many ways. So we're doing that today. So we have Margaret Engel, who is the student and student and policy organizer? No, I know I got it wrong. Tell it again.
The student and campaigns coordinator.
Student and campaign coordinator. I'm going to get it one of these times. I'll have it planted firmly. Student and campaign coordinator for Peace Action Fund of New York State. And also you do things for Peace Action New York State as well. So thank you for coming, Margaret. And
thank you,
next, Emily Rubino, executive director of both of those organizations. Emily, we're so grateful that you squeezed us into your busy schedule as well.
Thanks, Vicki. Good to be here.
It's great to have you. And then we have, of course, Melanie Roque. Melanie is the president of Peace Action Niagara University. So thank you, Melanie, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so great to have you there. And I love that you have the Haudenosaunee flag behind you. That's wonderful. And we also have Rose. Now, Rose, what's your last name?
My last name is Rivera.
Rivera. So here is Rose Rivera, who is a student at Buff State, and she is volunteering here at WBNY. And so we're so grateful that she could join us as well, because we're going to talk plenty about students. And especially, I know you don't have to leave too early, but a little bit early. So we wanted to deal with the student part first, especially because also this is Buff State Radio, Buff State's own radio station. And we also have a Peace Action Buff State, I hear. But before we get into all of that, one piece we always like to do is values. So it's sort of when you think of peace action, and let's just say broadly, because of course there's national peace action as well, which we're all part of. It's a whole branch of it. It's the branches of a tree. So we have peace action. When you think of peace action or peace in action, what are the values that you think of as most important? So we'll just go around the room with that. So Margaret?
Yeah, I think when I think of peace action, I think of solidarity.
Mm-hmm.
I think of community and also resistance and bravery, especially
Wow.
when it comes to the students. Those are some of the things that come to mind.
Wonderful. Oh, those are all great values and so important. Emily?
Yes. Margaret took a lot of the ones I was also thinking of.
Of
So
course.
I'll echo what she was saying about solidarity and community. But another one that really comes to mind is steadfastness.
Yes.
I think whether we're talking about the students or some of our more seasoned organizers and community chapters, I think everyone kind of understands this is not a short-term commitment. It's a very long one, and there's always a lot of hurdles along the way. And a lot of the work we're doing now, you don't know what the impact's going to be in the future. So that steadfastness and commitment to peace and justice, I think, is a real big part of peace action for me.
Thank you. That's so true. And you've been a great example. Even in your young years, you've been a great, great example of that. We can talk about that some more. And Melanie?
Yeah, a lot of them have been said already.
Yeah, you
so
can say any ones you want.
Just to echo, I think of mainly community, and then perseverance, just among the student organizers I've interacted with and people within my chapter here, sort of taking on challenges and being, finding creative solutions to those and, acknowledging that this is a very difficult task to take on as a, organizer, as an activist. Things can get kind of difficult. So just the ability to continue on and sort of persevere, I guess, is something that I think of.
You're not kidding. As far as it difficult, and especially, it's always been difficult, and it's especially difficult and even scary at this time with the craziness, that is coming at us. Well, I would say on all sides, but especially from one side, especially meaning the federal side, let's say. But plenty of other issues. So, and Rose, what would you think of when you think, now I know you don't know the organization, but just about peace in action, peace action?
When I think of peace in action, I think of innovation and the inventive spirit on behalf of groups who are intersectional, as well as all groups who are allied to intersectional groups. I also think of resilience and confidence and bringing esteem to how esteemable it is to be resilient in that group and allied to a positive purpose.
Well, those are wonderful, and I want to say welcome to Peace Action. We'll have to recruit you after all this. So, very good, very good. And I want to ask you, Greg, because really in the circle, you can't see Greg, but he is right here. And if you want to, here, be in this, there he is. So, Greg, do you have a value you want to say about peace action that you think of?
Well, I've been running around being engineer and producer. So
yes. No, but just when you think of peace in action or peace and action, what do you think of as values?
I think it's essential, basically.
Right.
Absolutely essential.
Right. Well, thank you for that. That's absolutely true. So true. Just imagine where we'd be without all of you, all of us, without all the efforts that have been going on. So, and I'm going to say, my usual too, I can't help quoting Reverend Dr. King when he said, I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. That is why good, temporarily defeated, is stronger than evil, triumphant. So he said that, and so truth and love is something I think of so much. So it's love that makes people really activated, because we love each other, because we care about ourselves, our family, our community, the people who are being hurt. So we, try to change things for them, and even for the people that we don't agree with. It's not about hating on them. It's about, if they don't understand sometimes, it's how much things are hurting them. So the truth of the matter of what's going on, and not that truth is a simple thing, but it's certainly a lot simpler than people pretend to make it when there's just plain lying going on sometimes, or it's such a small percentage. There could be a lot of things going on, but some of them are only 2% or 5% of what's going on, and the other is much more prevalent. So the truth of the matter, or sharing our truths anyway, and then getting to the actual facts, those are really key to making the changes and even assessing what's going on and what needs to be going on. So and I'm going to say peace action gets involved in so many things, and I would say it's true, and it may even be especially true for student groups. I don't know about that. So you can say more about that, what you think. So why don't you start, Margaret, with the organizing of the student groups, and tell a little about the program and what it's doing and what it does accomplish on the different campuses.
Yeah, absolutely. So every year since 2011, Peace Action Fund of New York State has helped provided resources and advice and guidance generally for a number of different student chapters, which are all at universities across New York State. Mm-hmm. And the number has varied over the years, mm-hmm. and who's involved has varied over the years. Right now, we have 14 confirmed chapters starting in the spring. And they ranged everywhere from northern New York to Buffalo to Long Island and New York City and Syracuse. So it's really wide-reaching, and it's an opportunity for students to collaborate with each other across campus on different issues. And I think a really fundamental part of the program is that we give students the freedom to focus on, whatever peace and justice issues they think are most important to their community and to their campus. And so that ends up becoming this really beautiful mosaic of different peace initiatives. And this past semester, a lot of people have focused on, for example, and Melanie can talk about it too, like dog whistling for the far right and how to look out for that and be smart as a young person. But also people have been focusing on Palestine and Sudan and Congo and the conflicts going on there. They've been doing fundraising. They've also helped with voter registration. So it's really, like I said, just this amazing mosaic of student action taking place all over the state.
It is it's very amazing to me, and just a wonderful part of Peace Action, Peace Action Fund of New York State, and also as the Western New York Peace Center is a PANYS chapter. So I want to say we so value that the student groups exist, or, whenever we get to work with them, it's wonderful. And actually, Emily, because you came through that student organizing thing, that's why I was thinking when you were talking about perseverance, because I'll never forget when you were being roasted and oh God, help me. What? When it was said, well, Emily, there's lots of things that Emily doesn't know. She doesn't know that when you're a student intern, when you're a student or a student intern, that when you're done, you're supposed to leave and never get heard from again or something like that. And instead, you stuck with Peace Action New York State and have become the executive director. So every side of it about the student program. So what would you want to say about the student program?
Yeah. Well, I was an in-office intern. I actually didn't have the opportunity to start a student chapter at my college. Mm-hmm. I found out about Peace Action Fund of New York State through the student program. I had originally applied to be a student organizer myself and to start a chapter at Fordham University, which is where I went undergrad. But I only had one semester left before I graduated, which I'm sure Melanie and other students can tell you is like not quite enough time to get things up off the ground on a campus. So instead, I ended up pursuing an in-office internship, and as you said, just didn't leave, and was given opportunities to continue to grow. I used to joke that I just never gave the keys back to the office, which was funnier when we had a physical office space. Now we're virtual, but I funnily enough think I still have those keys somewhere. So,
I bet you do.
sorry to our old office building about that. But yeah, I think having the even though I wasn't able to start a PAFNYS chapter at the time, I was an on-campus activist, and I was really interested in an organization that wanted to tie this passion I had for activism and social justice with my concerns and also passion for humanitarian issues, and for issues around U.S. foreign policy, not just kind of the more domestic issues that I was focused on at the time. So I saw Peace Action Fund of New York State as really unique in being able to tie those two together and to really illustrate the connections about how domestic social justice issues are, inextricably linked to issues of foreign policy and war and militarism, and there's really no separating them. So that's a huge part of our program that I really value. I think at least Vicki knows, probably a few others know, that Peace Action kind of started out of the founding of two different anti-nuclear movements coming together. It was the movement for a sane nuclear policy and the Freeze movement, and then it was Sane Freeze, which became Peace Action. So anti-nuclear stuff is really at our core, and that's maybe not the issue that students are like running, over to join us about. But I think through our program, we're also able to kind of illustrate those connections and empower students to take action on the issues that they're already passionate about, and also expand the range of issues that we can provide information and knowledge on too.
Absolutely. Right, now that you're saying it's bringing a bell to me about that part of it. But it's so about your trajectory. But it is it's such an example of commitment, of perseverance and commitment, because activists. Well, I say this about social workers, that social workers are born and not made. Well, I think that activists, too, there are things that can happen, but there's things in us that make us more likely or less likely to do it. And so let's go to you, Melanie. How did you find your way to doing what you're doing?
So originally coming into Niagara, I really was sort of in limbo, I guess is the best way to describe it, in terms of my, goals, and just what I wanted to do aside from academics and career goals. I was very involved in high school in activism. I kind of have always been involved in that just through my family. My grandma and my mom have always been involved in the community, and but I was sort of coming in here as a freshman in this sort of limbo state, not knowing where to go to, not knowing really what I could do, if I could do anything, just because I saw myself as a freshman, in over my head, not knowing anything. And then I was put in a VSJ course here, which is our social justice class we have to take here at Niagara. And my professor, Dr. Dave Riley, is very active in organizing, and sort of reignited that spark I had, for activism, just my interests in community organizing. Certainly, there was some sort of interest I had in helping people, and specifically those coming into the country, so refugees, people seeking asylum. And so he kind of reignited that spark, and then he introduced me to Kyla Prince, which was the former president of Peace Action. And at the time, they were my TA for that social justice class. through Riley and Kai, I was sort of encouraged to join Peace Action, sit in on a meeting and see, what the club was about. And that very first meeting, I remember it like yesterday. It sounds kind of like dorky, but I was sitting in this very room, kind of at the far end of this table, head down, not really, engaging. And then Kai sort of pushed me to engage and was asking me for my thoughts on, an event that was coming up related to like public health in Niagara County specifically. So we were hoping to do a pop-up clinic where we gave out resources to those in need. And I was sort of pushed into that planning process just on the very first meeting. And then just showing up to, meetings after that, it was very much a space where like I, as a student who maybe didn't know much, could still participate and just, if I had an idea or if I had an interest I wanted to explore, that was always encouraged, and there's always a resource for that. So that was sort of my introduction to Peace Action, was taking a class, getting introduced to it by my TA and my professor. And it sort of helped me reignite that spark in my love and interest for activism and humanitarian aid and, all that, all the fun stuff.
Yeah, all that great stuff.
Yeah. But no, it was, I can't imagine, being in college and not being a part of this organization. It certainly shaped who I am today. And again, that sounds pretty dorky, but it's true. I genuinely don't see myself, I couldn't see myself doing anything else. And this has been like the greatest opportunity I've had, is to be a part of this club. So, yeah.
Well, you're such a great example. And I want to say, even now, at the busiest time of the semester when everything is due and everything, you're the one person who found the time to even, make the time to be on this show right now. I want to, high praise. The highest of praise and admiration and love, really, for Dave Riley. He is just a wonderful person. He and Nicole, his partner, they really do so much, and Niagara University also is a great example, because they do try to put their ideals, get their actions to match up with their ideals. And I mean, there's lots of examples of that. But the Justice House work, that the fact that the Justice House there exists, or that Peace Action Niagara University is a very good example of that. And everyone having something to contribute is another thing that's really important to activism, because you don't need, actually, we all have our knowledge and information to add. So I'm gonna ask you, Rose, if you want to share sort of, what do you think about student activism, and also what are these, what you've just heard, sort of what is that exciting or bringing to mind to you?
Absolutely. Okay, so I would like to say that I am seriously an ally to Kwame Ture's message of solidarity and educating the community through revolution. And I think that is the most beautiful thing. And I want to be an ally as much as I can to that. So I'm a computer programming major at Buff State. Their major goes by computer information systems, which is more business related. And I wrote a website for my own positivity towards intersectionality campaign as an ally. And I really like expressing messages of activism and being as authentic about them as I can. So I really think that programming has helped me establish a strong message, because it is something that is revolutionized in the format of technology, and it allows me to challenge myself with dialogue about technology and how it can be used to innovate for the sake of revolution, for the sake of bringing justice and equity. And I think when I look at the world today, it's hard for me not to be cynical sometimes, which I know also sounds like I don't mean it to be solipsistic, but I do get cynical, and I do, in a lot of ways, need an attitude makeover. And programming is like a fresh start, and the future is what I want to look at for a fresh start. And I think that the future is a good place to look for hope and optimism. And when I practice those values that social justice and or intersectional movements can allow me to understand, moving through society with those values, I can become inspired to make change on my own. And I value individuality because I think that with the community, accepting each other the way we are is one value that I believe in wholeheartedly can create a very beautiful revolution. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Rose. And you know what you're saying brings to mind, I'm always saying all of our issues are interrelated and interconnected, and that all of our solutions are interrelated and interconnected. What to speak of ourselves that we are interrelated and interconnected. But one of the things I hadn't thought before, specifically that you're bringing to mind, is the fact that all of these different skills and abilities and, different intelligences, right, that we have are all interrelated and interconnected and necessary in movement building. So, I mean, when you start, technology is far from my strong point. In fact, it is I could mention a few weak points, but that's definitely in there with the weakest points. And it's so important, especially nowadays, and it gives us so many abilities, and it causes so many pitfalls too. So all of those things. But also, when we were just talking, I was just talking with an organizer all about ICE and everything. I was very privileged to be on that call about rapid response to ICE. And one of the things that this organizer said, as a mom, she was just sort of reminding people, we seem to have this hierarchy. So we want the courage and we want to go out there and, save people or do this and that. And she said, but also, the people who say, I'll have to watch your kids while you go do that, or I let me make dinner so that when people come back from whatever they're doing, or bring it to them, all of this, there's not a skill that isn't needed. There's not a person or a viewpoint, right? Like the different viewpoints. And I think that's something that, it has to do with a healthy culture. And it's a healthy culture that I see in Peace Action Fund of New York State and in Peace Action of New York State. And Peace Action. And, I can say at the Western New York Peace Center as well, and certainly here at WBNY, where we get all kinds of cooperation and help just, making it all possible. So I think that's really, really important. So why don't we just go around again a little bit with some of the issues, some of the examples maybe. Maybe we want to get to a little storytelling or examples of the activism, some of the kinds of events or campaigns that people have worked on or gotten have been most excited about or are most excited about. So, Margaret?
Yeah. Oh, man. I can think of a lot of different examples of what students have done. Mm-hmm. I really love talking about Stony Brook University and how they have done such a fantastic job of upholding this series where they have artists who are student artists create art and auction it as a fundraiser for a specific cause. And that cause ends up rotating throughout the year, and they do it a couple times each semester. So they've done a number of fundraisers on Palestine. They've done fundraising on Sudan and Congo and Ukraine and Venezuela. And so in those art auctions, they are incorporating the talents of students. Like you were just saying, it really takes a lot of different skills and incorporating everyone's talents into it, but also educating people on the various issues. And so that those students at Stony Brook know exactly why they're buying this art and what that money is going towards and how they can even, help in the future with different events. So that's just something that I love that they do. And then in the spring, they they do kind of a bigger version of it as this sort of peace gala, and they have student dancers and singers to give a concert and do a number of fundraisers. So yeah, just their usage of art is so inspiring to me.
That sounds wonderful. Very, very good. And just fantastic. And art is so important. Art and music, are so important. And especially in educating people and also in building solidarity, everything. So, Emily, what do you think of?
Yeah, I think there's just been so many incredibly creative events over the years. I also love that our chapters kind of both work to kind of meet immediate needs in their community, whether that's, feminine hygiene drives or food drives, coat drives. I think our Sarah Lawrence chapter actually just put something in the group chat about putting together hygiene kits for a local shelter in the area. That was really wonderful. And they used their Peace Action tote bags for that. But also ones that can get creative and allow people to kind of like do different crafts while also, expanding folks' education. One that went on for years were like different bath bombs, not cluster bombs events. I think it was Canisius that was doing that back in the day. I'll never forget Lemonade for Yemen Aid, which took the form both of like lemonade stands, for people to raise funds for Yemen relief at the time, or like it was kind of like if you call your representative and ask them, to support this piece of legislation to stop U.S. complicity in war crimes in Yemen, we will give you a cup of lemonade. I used to joke that like the Beyonce album Lemonade should somehow be involved. But I love when like one school kind of starts with an idea and other chapters kind of pick up on it and expand on it. Another great example of that is like the peace tours. I think it was an original Niagara Peace Action person who first started the peace tours, or maybe it was Manhattan College actually, that looked up, kind of different sites significant to peace and justice in their area and organized their club and anyone who wanted to join them to go along with that. So when Manhattan College did that, and they're based in the Bronx, they were going to different sites in New York City, like Stonewall and the site of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, and stopping by a vigil in Union Square that's ongoing for Yemen. And then up in Niagara, there was one, focused on different sites in the Underground Railroad, and going to different museum spots in the area. So it's something that I think anyone can do in their area. And I love when the students are able to kind of resource share ideas with each other and apply it to their, local context. So that was a lot, but there's been so many great examples over the years.
It's a lot, but it's because there's, as you say, there are so many great examples. And I wanted to go on that Niagara one, and I never got to. So I'm not that I know some of the sites, but I'm sure I don't know all of the sites. I don't know all the sites in Buffalo. I know some of them, then there's lots of them, especially when we get into history. For history buffs. And so, Melanie, what would you say? We were just talking about that NU has done such a great job on so many things.
Yeah, thank you. This semester has been a bit interesting just because we haven't been really doing traditional events in the sense that, we don't really, as opposed to last semester where we had like feminine hygiene drives and health day events, but this semester has been really focused on targeting and sort of addressing issues on campus within our administration. We started off the semester with a dog whistle event, basically trying to educate students and just people in the community on phrases and harmful, rhetoric that can be used from any group really, but specifically the far right, and how they target minority groups, and that was a really nice event in it itself. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And just the planning process and getting everything together, and getting students engaged with that event was honestly it was really incredible to see just how different members of the club brought their knowledge and their background and used that to, set up this event. We had marketing majors sort of helping with logistics on promoting. We had political science majors sort of helping in like presentation and what should be said and, finding facts and information. But then there was it was sort of within the planning process, we came across some roadblocks in terms of our promotion, and like what we could do, what we could place on flyers, so sort of like figuring out how we could best promote an event that was deemed controversial by the administration, was just really, honestly, like, again, incredible is the only word I can, because it really brought us together as a chapter. It showcased everybody's abilities and their knowledge, and sort of combating that or pushing back on the administration and continuing on with the event despite their, I guess, their concerns, if you will, because it is a very important topic to talk about,
You're not kidding.
Highlight. And so we decided to push forward and find creative ways to promote our event. We handed out flyers to individual students as opposed to putting them up on clipboard or chalkboards and all that.
Right.
We created little pamphlets just with brief information on what a dog whistle was, examples. We met with professors to sort of help us in that promotion of the event. We we went on our Instagram and our social medias and we promoted that way. So that was really nice to see, just how we could come together and find creative solutions to certain problems. And then along with that, we've been pushing back on certain policy that the school has taken up as of late. So we are pushing back currently on a policy regarding flags that can be hung on campus.
Right.
And the policy itself wasn't shared to students, and was only really shared out to faculty. So I don't have it on me right now, but just the basics are, the only flags allowed on campus currently are the Canadian and American flag. And it's very concerning because there have been, for years now, students advocating for the Haudenosaunee flag to be hung on campus and to be represented. And unfortunately, that's not the case still. So we're currently working with other student groups to push back on that very harmful policy, because it does limit the representation of the Haudenosaunee people, and they are such a crucial group of people in our community here at Niagara. So it's very concerning and very disheartening to see. And so we're trying to find creative solutions to that as well, and how to push back on that. So it's been an experience, and this semester has really just highlighted how incredible the team here is at Niagara, and the members here, how they can sort of, that's why I think of perseverance. They can kind of just continue on despite the challenges and sort of roadblocks that come our way. And they're so creative, and yeah, that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, that's great. And I want to say, we had talked about this a little bit before, and I think it's so important. And when things become controversial, and as soon as they are trying to make you stop, you have to think, like, why is that happening? What's making that happen? And even when I said it, so here's Niagara University trying to, or at least, being a friend. Is it what's the Vincentian. That's what I was trying to think of. Yeah, as a Vincentian organization, they want to think about justice issues and think that they're very well informed about justice issues. However, they also know that they have, back to on stolen Haudenosaunee land, back to there is a Haudenosaunee, there is a Onondaga Seneca Nation that still exists. It didn't go anywhere, and it's still, it's another nation. Or that kind of suppression is really, it sort of that itself is a red flag when they say no, you can't do that. Why? What is the reason for that? So I think it's great that what you all have been doing, and I really want to hand it to you back to the courage to push back and to find your ways, of whatever kind, whatever type is going to work. So those are great examples. And dog whistles, that's another one. Very important, really critical for people to understand what's going on and to learn and to be forewarned and forearmed and spreading that knowledge. So that's so important. Rose, you were talking a little about some things that you're already doing.
Oh, yeah. I love programming, so I write websites. I like to share as much about what I understand from my own altruistic perspective and do research to enhance that so that it's not too far in any direction. But we all make mistakes. But I definitely love making sure that I can correct myself when I'm wrong.
Sure.
And then also, I wanted to mention that last year I attended a fashion show at Buff State that I thought was so beautiful because the whole theme was intersectional identity. And I love how broad the scale was and how inclusive the theme was for the fashion show because it included all different various identities. And it also included them in such a way that fashion could be interpreted the way ancestry could. And I really love interpreting ancestry through fashion. I love interpreting my history through fashion. I love seeing other interpretations of history through fashion. I love seeing that in the modeling world and in the fashion world to create a more unified space. I think that's it.
Thanks. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And it really brings to mind another thing. I don't know how much you want to say about this, and we do want to talk. First of all, I don't want you to stay any longer than you need to, Melanie. That's by the way, because I know you do need to leave. You just let us know when you need to leave. Is it now? Or
I can stay a minute or two.
You stay as long as you're comfortable. I just want to make sure we don't over commit you or something. But about the organizing that's going on in Buff State, is there a name of a club? Because we are on WBNY, Buffalo State Station on campus. So is there a way that if students, Buff State students are listening, that they can get connected to what's going on? Is there a group yet or a name for it or a person that you want to mention or not? I don't know. So please, yeah.
Yes. So any Buff State listeners should go onto Instagram and follow Buffalo State Peace Action, no spaces. They're a new chapter as of this fall, and the student organizer is wonderful. And I know that the chapter has a lot of big plans for the spring, so definitely get involved.
Right. That would be great. That would be very, very important. So Buffalo State student, it's Buffalo State Peace Action. Buffalo State Peace Action, right. Buffalo State Peace Action on Instagram. That's great. And then if you want to say, Emily, maybe you want to tell a little bit about what are the for other students who might be listening at other. Okay, so you are going to leave. Okay, so thank you so much, Melanie. It's so great to have you on the show. Thanks a jillion.
Thank you for having me. I hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Well, you've already made it a great day. Thanks. Take care. So, a little bit about the program and what people would do if they wanted to start up a chapter in, because we have plenty of other institutions of higher learning in Western New York. and New York
Yes.
State. So, yeah.
Yeah. And we're always happy to have new chapters. I know Margaret's doing some interviews, as she mentioned, for spring semester 2026 right now. So if you're interested in applying to become a student organizer, you can find more information on our website, PANYS.org, or feel free to email us. The easiest one to share on air would probably just be info@PANYS.org. If you send us an email, curious about whether your school already has a chapter or interested in more information on how to apply, we'll definitely get back to you. But it would be wonderful to expand our student chapter network and to have more students. So if you're interested in applying or just finding out more information, please reach out to us that way. And we also have 11 community chapters and affiliated allies across the state. So we're always happy when our student chapters can be connected with them as well.
So so maybe let's talk a little bit, too, about that, about the Peace Action New York State and just, whatever. I mean, I'd say, first of all, as the Western New York Peace Center is one of them. We're proud to be one of them. So I know a little something on that. But if you want to talk a little bit about Peace Action New York State and those community chapters. The community.
Sure. So,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So as you kind of mentioned and alluded to, Vicki, we have both a 501c3 and 501c4 organization, which are basically just different types of nonprofit organizations. One can do more direct lobbying and electoral work than the other. And that is the Peace Action New York State side. And that is comprised of community chapters across the state. 11 of them, as I mentioned, all the way from, Brooklyn and Staten Island up to Buffalo, Western New York Peace Center, in Syracuse, the Syracuse Peace Council. So we've got really incredible, committed community chapters that are made up of members that have been in the peace movement for far longer than I've been alive in many cases. But our community chapters really make up a strong grassroots network that can coordinate together on pressuring their representatives on different pieces of legislation, on coordinating protests across the state or part of nationwide movements. I know right now, the past few years, a lot of our work has really been focused on Gaza and calling for a ceasefire and expanding humanitarian aid. And also, I think specifically putting a lot of pressure on our New York Senators Schumer and Gillibrand, who are still just extremely disappointing at best on these issues. So I think it's important that we have a strong statewide network and movement that can really put pressure on our representatives and make it clear that this is not something New Yorkers want or something that represents us. And then lately, we've been trying to do more work around Venezuela and these absolutely horrible unauthorized strikes in the Caribbean. And I know there's two different pieces of legislation that have recently been introduced around this. Both are war powers resolutions, which means that they have privileged status and are able to invoke the fact that it's Congress that has the authority to declare war, not the president or any other body. So one is not just focused on Venezuela, but just broadly, I think just fully on the Western Hemisphere, is H-Con Res 61. And then one that was just introduced that is more specifically just about Venezuela and not allowing, the U.S. Armed Forces or other branches to enter into hostilities with Venezuela is H-Con Res 64. So throwing in some pieces of legislation there are not that many New York representatives, or if anyone's listening outside of New York State, just representatives on these bills yet because they were just introduced. So definitely take a minute to call your elected officials and ask them to co-sponsor these pieces of legislation and stop the U.S. from entering into another war.
Thank you for bringing that up. It's such a so important. And there are so many ways where our government, which is always, we've had our war crimes, we've had our crimes, we've had our, from the inception, but it's getting to be at such a level that it's really just so outrageously concerning. And one of the things I think, if we want to talk a little bit about the courage, and I think that was mentioned when we were going around about values, and I think, I want to mention that both for, activists of any age, and especially the student activists, there has been so much pushback and so much unreasonable harassment and criminalization of absolutely necessary. I want to bring out, we can talk about civil disobedience is breaking an unjust law. Civil resistance is trying to get the government to follow the law. So if let's just go around about, on that general topic of resistance and the courage that it takes. So I'm going to go back to you, Emily, and then we can just go around on that one. Just briefly, because this will be our sort of our last go round, except for any. Oh, yeah. So anyway, your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that at any time to be an activist, it requires courage and it requires, drive. But I think especially now in the climate we're in, I am so regularly humbled and in awe of our student organizers for being willing to still be involved in this work and to not be, just backing down in the face of these threats and fears. We definitely have seen larger crackdowns. Right. We've seen students threatened with, suspension, expulsion, not being able to graduate for being involved in student protests, especially when it comes to Palestine.
Right.
And many of our students are still actively involved unapologetically and are willing to face those consequences because of how deeply they believe in the cause. A lot of them have also we talked a lot about creativity and adaptability. A lot of them have gotten very creative in finding ways around these new laws and loopholes and crackdowns and still trying to find a way to educate their community and advocate for what they believe in. So I think that that's true always. And I think that there's a lot of lessons that veteran organizers can share with us and a lot of practical skills people need to be able to be involved in civil disobedience and just other types of activism and resistance. But I think also now just the creativity and just straight courage that we're seeing from students, especially students just really leading at the front lines of this is incredible. And I'm just really honored and humbled to get to work alongside them and support them where we can.
Me too. Margaret?
Emily really said it all. I mean, I think it's just amazing and horrifying at the same time that these students have to be so resilient and also so smart about what kind of policies are coming out of their university, how to interact with administration, how to promote an event without, raising any flags, but still being able to get the message out there. It's like this very delicate act that they shouldn't have to deal with, but they do, and they do it in really creative and effective ways. And then once a month, we all get to come together on Zoom and just talk about what that experience is like and provide resources and insight and ask questions. And that is such a valuable time because if you don't have solidarity when it comes to, dealing with administration and dealing with just so much fear happening on these campuses, if you don't have people to lean on, then, you won't be able to do the work. Right.
No, we need each other. Absolutely. And the sort of hairier it gets, the more we need each other, and that solidarity makes me think of Cornel West said when we all, or if we all had moral integrity and universal solidarity, we would be where we need to get to. So that integrity and that solidarity, is so important, and the courage to pursue it, to try to build that, and in the face of people trying to stamp it down, because they'd rather keep things the way they are in all the lack of justice that we have. Rose, anything you want to share on that topic?
I just think about a lot of the kinds of injustice that I'm seeing in the literature that they do. So they have the library at Buff State, and they share literature at the front that explains a lot of the injustice going on in the world. And in this book, Women of Medan, it explains the international struggle of women's rights, even within political regimes that are misunderstood to be the religious aspect, but are really just more political structures imposing on women's freedom. And for example, like the Mubarak in Egypt and in a lot of North Africa and in the Middle East, like that's being confused as religion, and it's actually just a political structure that is taking a lot of effort in minimizing women's rights as much as they can. And then I think in America, when I think of nationals,
go ahead, finish your thought. We're honing in on the end of the time.
And don't worry about the time so much today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I apologize for that.
No.
We never let you know the structure, so
no.
I just wanted to be very honest.
No, thank you for that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. I just wanted to say that within America, I feel like we have a right to be more than superficial, and we have a right to have a protest that police are not fronting, because I feel like, in my opinion, that takes away from the value of the protest and the principle of the protest and the message of the protest. And I just think that's a very Blue Lives way to make a protest in a society of injustice, where their whole message is supposed to be pro-Palestine when really it's pro-fronting a protest with some sort of misunderstanding that we as Americans are smarter enough to know better than to have. So that's all I'm going to say.
Well, thank you for that. And, we, just like we said, we need so many tools in so many ways, so many viewpoints. I think we need so many modalities, and, sometimes it's very confrontational. Sometimes it's not very confrontational. We just have to tease out, like, what's going to be effective and what's really going to help us get where we need to go. And so there's nothing simple about it, but we just, and also different people take up different parts of that too, depending on their situation and also the particular issue and the particular opportunity to address it, let me say. But so let's just very quickly now on like how people can, we've already addressed this a little bit, but just sort of a bottom line, especially about getting involved. What would you recommend people to get involved, ways of getting involved? So, Emily, starting with Emily. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I should start. But yes, I think I already mentioned, you can go to our website, PANYS.org. You can sign up for our newsletter. We send a weekly newsletter out with different actions happening all across the state, and also virtual events. Mm-hmm. Highly recommend that you get involved with a local community chapter, or if you're a student, either get involved with your local student chapter or start a new student chapter. Mm-hmm. In addition to being able to email us or sign up for our newsletter, feel free to follow us on social media, either Facebook or Instagram, or I think we're still on X. It's Peace Action and at Peace Action NY on any of those social media platforms. And yeah, if you're not in New York State, join a different Peace Action affiliate or chapter. Right. Or whatever issue or topic is closest to your heart, try to find people already doing the work on the ground and support it however you can. As we've talked about a lot, all of these issues are intertwined, they're intersectional. So if there's one piece that you feel like your skills and passion are especially calling you to, work on that piece, because that, overall helps us unweave this, just overarching structure of injustice and power. So I say join a Peace Action New York State or Peace Action Fund of New York State chapter, but if something else calls to you, I'd be happy to hear you do anything. I think it's just starting somewhere and being part of those local communities.
Thank you. That's so beautifully comprehensive. I'm still going to pass it to you, Margaret. I know, Emily, that was beautiful. I'd like to take that little piece and use that for, you should take that little piece and use it for a promo. But anyway, and Margaret?
Ditto, PANYS.org. Come start a chapter, or if you're already part of a club on your university, collaborate with your local Peace Action chapter. Like Emily said, there's so many ways to get involved, so start today.
Right. Or just start as an individual, just like Rose did. She says she has her own, starting your own movement within a movement. And then I want to say of that, sharing and building it too, building it out. So we are so grateful. I am so grateful to all of you who've been on the show, including Melanie, especially Melanie, who was leaving to take a test. So I really said, are you sure you want to do this like right before a test? But anyway, so it's just about that courage and commitment and all that truth and love that is just very much percolating here. And so we're going to get where we want to go. I'm very grateful to you all. Thank you so much, Emily, Margaret, Rose, Greg, and you who are listening out there. We're all in this together. We've been talking peace, and together we have been talking peace in truth and love.